The city was a maze of secrets and lies, and James Carter was about to dive deep into its underbelly. He visited the place where Emily was abducted, retracing her final steps. Each corner, each lamppost was a witness to the crime, yet none had offered their testimony willingly. It was as if the city itself was hiding something. As evening fell, casting long shadows, James stood by the bus stop where Emily had been taken. The same horror that had gripped her must have been 1,000 times worse for the young woman. The image of her terrified face, etched into his memory, fueled his determination. He would not rest until justice was served. But he knew time was running out. Each minute that ticked by without Emily's rescue increased the danger. A sudden movement in a nearby alley caught James's eye. He crouched down, his gaze sharp and focused like a hawk's. Emerging from the shadows was a scrawny man with shifty eyes. He was clutching a backpack close to his chest. James approached him, his voice firm and commanding. "Excuse me, sir, but did you see anything suspicious around here last night? Any unusual activity?" The man looked up, startled. He stammered, trying to deny any knowledge, but his eyes betrayed him. They were filled with a mixture of fear and guilt. With a sigh, the man finally relented, revealing what he had seen. 2 men matching the description of the abductors had indeed dragged a girl into the alley. They had threatened him, warning him to stay silent. But seeing the determination in James's eyes, he realized resistance was futile. So he led the detective to a grimy pub, hoping that would provide some answers. In the dimly lit pub, James found himself seated across from a burly man with a face like a bulldog. The man's name was Bruno, and he knew more than he was letting on. James could sense it, but Bruno was playing his cards close to his chest. The detective laid his cards on the table, mentioning Emily and the abductors. Bruno's reaction was nonchalant, as if the news had no impact on him, but James wasn't convinced. He knew there was a connection. To expose it, he decided to use Bruno's own words against him, quoting Bruno's earlier statement. James pressed him, making it clear that he knew Bruno was involved. In the struggle that ensued, Bruno lost his balance, knocking over a glass in the process. In a flash, James lunged forward, grabbing Bruno by the collar. With a swift kick, he sent the glass flying, cutting Bruno's hand. Blood trickled down Bruno's fingers, staining the tabletop red. Seeing the blood, a terrified look crossed Bruno's face. His facade of nonchalance shattered. Adrenaline surged through James as he leaned in close to Bruno, his voice low and menacing. "Now, Bruno, do we have a deal?" Bruno, realizing he was trapped, finally broke. He spilled everything he knew about the Red Scorpion and Emily's abduction. Meanwhile, Emily was held captive in a dark, damp basement. Her eyes were swollen from crying, and her body ached from being shoved into a corner. Just when she thought it couldn't get worse, the door creaked open, revealing a man she had seen in her nightmares. It was the leader of the Red Scorpion. He approached her, a cruel smile twisting his lips. "You are the key to our success," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "Your father owes us a lot of money, and you, my dear Emily, are his only hope to pay it off." Emily's mind raced. Her father was a businessman who often dealt with shady characters. Could this be a case of mistaken identity, or was there more to it? To be continued. His heart pounded against his ribs like a trapped bird. James felt a surge of protectiveness for Emily, an emotion that mirrored the turmoil in his own heart. Every second without her felt like an eternity. He quickly left a note for Michael outlining his plan. Trusting his friend to handle the investigation's tech side was easy. Years of working together had forged a bond of trust and understanding that transcended words. Meanwhile, in a dingy warehouse, miles away from the affluent world of Mayfair, the men celebrated their triumph, or so they thought. One of the men, whose face was partially hidden in the shadows, chuckled softly. "We got him good, didn't we? That little Carter will be begging on his knees to save his precious girlfriend." Another man, equally sinister, shook his head, his eyes gleaming with malice. "That's just the beginning. Think about the chaos we'll cause when we hit his family directly. Carter won't know what hit him." Their leader, a towering figure known only as the boss, remained impassive, his gaze distant. He had meticulously planned every detail. This game was one he intended to win, no matter the cost. James made his way to the specified location, a rundown boxing gym in the city's rough East End. Despite its dilapidated exterior, the place reeked of countless battles fought and won within its 4 walls. Stepping inside, James found himself in a dimly lit space. Ropes hung like cobwebs from the ceiling, and worn-out punching bags swayed slightly in the stagnant air. Suddenly, a gruff voice boomed from the shadows. "So, Detective Inspector Carter has finally decided to grace us with his presence." Emerging from the darkness was a burly man with a face like a bulldog and fists that could crush bones. This was Bruno, the Bull Bellini, notorious for his brutality. He had been on James's radar for years, his name synonymous with violence and crime in London's underworld. Bruno eyed James up and down, a cruel smile twisting his lips. "Come to recruit me to your little team, have you? Too late, Carter. I'm in with the winners now." James, unfazed by Bruno's menacing aura, returned his gaze steadily. "You always were a fool, Bruno. But if you want to play with the big boys, you have to make the right choices. Tell me where Emily is, and I promise you won't regret it. Bruno let out a harsh laugh, the sound echoing ominously in the empty gym. You think you can scare me, Carter? You know nothing about me. You wouldn't dare. James took a step closer, his eyes boring into Bruno. I would and I will do whatever it takes to protect my officers and my city. Now tell me where she is, Bruno, before I lose my patience. As Bruno struggled to find the words, a sudden commotion erupted outside the gym. Gunshots rang out, shattering the silence, followed by the screech of tires. A black van that had been parked nearby suddenly sped away, kicking up gravel in its wake. James, ever quick-witted, instantly understood what had happened. Thanks for the tip, Bruno. Looks like I know where to find my girl now. With that, James dashed out of the gym, adrenaline surging through his veins. He had a lead, however tenuous, and he wasn't about to waste time. As James raced toward his car, his mind raced with possibilities. This close call had only fueled his determination. He wouldn't rest until Emily was safe and sound. The game was far from over, but James was ready to up the ante. With each passing moment, James drove faster, his focus unwavering. He could feel Emily's fear like a phantom limb, aching and desperate. Just when his resolve threatened to crumble, he spotted it, a familiar landmark up ahead. Hope surged through him like a jolt of electricity. The warehouse district. He remembered Michael mentioning that the signal had led them here. Suddenly the van swerved sharply, almost colliding with another vehicle. James slammed on his brakes, his heart pounding in his chest. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the same black van from earlier speeding past him, disappearing around a corner. Without hesitation, James veered off course, following the trail of the kidnappers. James Carter ran through the dark, narrow alleyways between the warehouses, adrenaline surging through his veins, each heavy breath echoing the urgency of his mission. His eyes were fixed on the flickering light of the exit sign in the distance, a beacon leading him to safety. Behind him, the sound of pursuit drew nearer, footsteps pounding on the pavement, their muffled voices carrying through the night. James didn't dare turn around. He couldn't afford to lose Michael. Not now. Not when they were so close to unraveling the biggest conspiracy of their careers. Suddenly, a hand clamped onto James's shoulder, spinning him around. Michael stood there, his face ashen, eyes wide with terror. James, he stammered, pointing toward the opening. I think we lost them. Relief washed over James, but it was short-lived. The danger they had just escaped represented only a fraction of what lay ahead. They had breached the outer layer of the conspiracy, but what they had discovered in that warehouse had plunged them into the heart of a treacherous labyrinth. Back at the station, the news of James and Michael's daring raid reached Detective Inspector Kate Marshall. Her gaze was fixed on the city as she addressed her team. We got lucky tonight, she admitted, her voice tight with suppressed tension. Carter and Briggs managed to escape with their lives, but they didn't get much intelligence from the warehouse. It looks like we're dealing with an organization far bigger and more entrenched than we anticipated. At the same moment, deep within a luxurious penthouse suite overlooking the city, a figure was watching the news coverage of the warehouse raid. Julian Crest, a prominent businessman known for his shrewd investments and influential connections, his face was unreadable, betraying none of the turmoil that was taking place behind his composed facade. Beside him stood Anthony Briggs, his face pale and etched with worry. Crest, he began, his voice shaky. I tried to warn you. The leak in my warehouse. The police were onto us. Crest turned, his gaze sharp and cold. You should have secured the perimeter, Tony. Lives are at stake here, and you failed. Meanwhile, at the safe house where Emily Watson was being held, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Emily sat tied to a chair, her eyes closed, trying to calm her racing heart. Two burly men guarded her, their presence a constant reminder of her vulnerability. She had no idea how much time had passed. All she knew was the chilling tick-tock of the clock on the wall, counting down the seconds to an uncertain fate. Days turned into a blur for James and Michael. They worked tirelessly, chasing shadows and piecing together clues. The deeper they went, the more the net seemed to tighten around them. Every move they made, every lead they followed was like walking on eggshells. The Red Scorpion gang was proving to be more elusive than they had imagined. One evening, as James pored over photographs taken at the warehouse, a detail caught his eye. He pulled out a magnifying glass, examining the interior of one of the vehicles. There, hidden beneath the engine, was a small, almost imperceptible symbol. James felt a chill run down his spine. He recognized that symbol. It was the emblem of a secretive organization known as the Obsidian Hand, notorious for operating in the shadows, pulling the strings of power from behind the scenes. Could this be the connection they were looking for? Was the Red Scorpion gang just a pawn in a larger, more sinister game? As night fell, James and Michael prepared for another operation, this time targeting a safe house believed to be harboring some of the Red Scorpion members. The stakes were higher than ever. With Emily's life hanging in the balance, they had to succeed. The safe house was in a quiet residential area, a world away from the bustling city. The closer they got, the more tense the atmosphere became. James could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. This was not just a raid, it was a race against time. Michael, his face grim, handed James a photograph. "We got word from an informant," he whispered. "Said he saw someone resembling Emily at the safe house. He also mentioned there's a CCTV system in place. Top-of-the-line security. We won't know anything until we're inside." As the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, James and Michael moved in. Adrenaline surged through their veins as they navigated the maze of rooms. Time was slipping away, and they had to find Emily quickly. Then suddenly, amidst the darkness, a faint sound reached their ears. A soft whimper coming from a room at the end of the corridor. James's heart skipped a beat. He knew that sound. Without hesitation, he burst through the door. And there she was, Emily, huddled in a corner, her eyes filled with fear and exhaustion. Relief washed over James, but it was short-lived. A low voice cut through the silence. "Looking for something, detective?" James turned slowly, his eyes adjusting to the dim light. Standing in the doorway was a tall, imposing man with a steely gaze. His presence exuded power and menace. Julian Kress. James said the name like a curse. It was a name synonymous with wealth, influence, and now terror. In the ensuing struggle, Michael sustained a serious injury, collapsing to the ground with a gasp. Seeing Michael fall sent a surge of anger coursing through James, fueling his determination to bring Kress down. But as Kress taunted them, revealing the extent of his twisted plan, James realized this was not just about Emily anymore. It was about justice. The operation to rescue Emily Watson had been a success, but the victory was marred by the realization of the gravity of the situation. Kress's network was vast and his influence deep. The exposure of his crimes was only the beginning of a long and perilous journey toward justice. The conspiracy, far from over, had only revealed its first layer. James knew that what lay beneath was likely to be far more treacherous. With Emily safely recovered, the focus shifted to gathering evidence to bring down Kress. But Kress, sensing the tightening net, took action to protect himself. He initiated a media campaign, smearing James and his team, attempting to portray them as rogue officers. Public opinion swayed, casting doubt on their integrity. The pressure mounted, threatening to derail their investigation. Meanwhile, an unexpected ally emerged. An anonymous donor provided funding, establishing a foundation to support the families of fallen officers. Little did James know that this act of kindness had a deeper purpose. The investigation took a shocking turn when a key witness was found dead, seemingly silenced to protect Kress's secrets. The revelation of an internal mole shook the department. Suspicions grew, fracturing relationships and creating a climate of fear. As the team struggled to maintain unity, Kress continued to evade justice. He orchestrated a series of events that resulted in a financial scandal, further diverting public attention and damaging the reputation of the police force. The net was tightening, but Kress remained elusive. The revelation of the mole who had been feeding information to Kress caused a rift within the team. Trust became a luxury they could no longer afford. Each member became a suspect, forcing them to confront their own demons and prove their loyalty. Driven by a desperate need for answers, James took a drastic step. He visited Kress's business rival, risking his own safety to seek information. In a thrilling confrontation, James uncovered crucial evidence linking Kress directly to the conspiracy. But this dangerous alliance was only exposed when Kress's trusted associate betrayed him, revealing the true mastermind behind the conspiracy. Kress, it was revealed, was merely a pawn in a larger game orchestrated by a shadowy organization known as the Hand of Obsidian. This revelation plunged the city into turmoil, exposing a level of corruption and betrayal that had been concealed for years. The loyalties of the police force were tested as the full extent of the conspiracy was unveiled. The climax of the story saw James leading a final operation to dismantle the Hand of Obsidian. With the help of his team, he brought down the organization, ending their reign of terror once and for all. But the victory came at a cost, leaving James forever changed by the ordeal. The ordeal had exposed the darkest corners of human nature, testing the limits of courage, loyalty, and sacrifice. But in the face of overwhelming odds, James and his team had prevailed, reaffirming their commitment to justice. As the dust settled, the city began to heal, slowly piecing itself back together. But the scars left by the Obsidian Hand conspiracy ran deep, serving as a reminder of the constant battle between darkness and light. The night's darkness hung heavy over London's deserted streets. Fleeing from the warehouse, James and Michael had sought refuge in an abandoned park. Now, with ragged breaths and sweat dripping down their faces, they huddled near a statue of an old Roman emperor, its stony gaze seeming to mock their fear. James, clutching the file he'd managed to grab during their escape, broke the seal. Beneath the crisp white paper, Emily's smiling face stared back. But it was the words below that chilled him to the bone. Target. Phase 1. Emily Watson. Michael swallowed nervously. James, this is obvious. Emily's kidnapping wasn't random. She's the first piece of their entire operation. But why? How could a regular student matter so much to Red Scorpion? James's gaze remained fixed on the photo of Emily. Her eyes seemed to hold a secret, one that she'd taken to her grave. She's not ordinary, Michael. There's something in her life we don't know yet. Something they want. As dawn painted the sky with hues of gray, James found himself standing outside Emily's university. The towering brick structure seemed to loom over him, filled with whispers of secrets and hidden agendas. His eyes scanned the grounds until they landed on a young woman sitting on a nearby bench. She was Emily's closest classmate, a friend who might hold the key to unraveling this tangled web. Clearing his throat, James approached her. The woman looked up, her eyes welling with tears. "I'm sorry," James began, extending a hand. "But I knew Emily. I'm afraid I have some news about her that you need to hear." The woman hesitated, then placed a trembling hand in his. "I'm Sophia Miller, her closest friend. I knew something was wrong. Emily hadn't been herself these past few days. Brilliant, yes, especially in computer science. But lately, a darkness had fallen over her. She was onto something big, she told me, something that could bring the whole rotten system crashing down. If she succeeded, the truth would come out for the whole world to see." Sophia's voice cracked, but she never told me what truth, James. All she whispered was, "If I ever disappear, just know that someone silenced me." James felt a chill crawl up his spine. Emily's kidnapping wasn't a random act. She'd stumbled upon a truth that someone wanted buried. "Thank you, Sophia. I believe I understand now," he said, rushing away before the tears could spill. Back at the hideout, James found Michael hunched over a table littered with technical equipment. Relief washed over his face when he saw James return with information. "James, I need Emily's laptop. She must have hidden something inside it." Together, they raced back to Emily's flat, each step echoing the urgency of their mission. As the door swung open, the sight that greeted them was the same as before, untouched, as if Emily had vanished into thin air. The dresser in the corner seemed to mock their worry. Underneath its surface lay a small box. Hope surged through them as they realized it was Emily's hidden compartment. Inside lay a worn leather laptop case. It was clear that Emily hadn't intended to leave without it. With shaking hands, Michael began working his magic. His fingers flew across the keys, coaxing the machine to reveal its secrets. Moments stretched into an eternity before Michael's face drained of color. "James, you won't believe this." Emily hacked into Red Scorpion's secret server. James's heart pounded in his chest. And what did she find? The laptop screen flickered, displaying a series of files. Hidden bank accounts, complex money laundering schemes, illegal weapons deals. But it was the last file that sent a shiver down their spines. Operation Black Dawn, it was titled. And as they read further, the gravity of what they were uncovering became clear. Red Scorpion planned to unleash chaos on London, assassinating key politicians, plunging the city into disorder and framing it on rival gangs. Their goal, to destabilize the entire country. Emily had stumbled upon this sinister plot, jeopardizing Red Scorpion's plans and putting herself in mortal danger. Suddenly, the room seemed to shrink, the walls closing in on them. The clock was ticking, and they had to move fast. Then came the sound that froze their blood, a loud knock on the door. For a moment, they froze, the silence deafening. Then slowly, James opened the door. On the ground lay a sealed envelope. With trembling hands, James broke the seal. The message was short, chilling. "Clock is ticking. You have 24 hours to make a decision. Bring £10 million to Dock 17, midnight. Come alone. If you bring the police or the FBI, she's dead." James looked at Michael, his eyes mirroring the turmoil within. "It's a trap, but it's a trap we'll have to walk into." The air crackled with tension as James stared at the man before him. The traitor who had infiltrated his team, jeopardizing everything. It was Mark, his closest friend and fellow officer, his face hidden behind a black ski mask. But now that mask lay discarded on the floor, revealing Mark's true identity. "Mark, what are you doing?" James demanded, his voice laced with betrayal. The answer came swiftly and coldly from behind another container. It was Michael, his voice tight with urgency. "James, you gotta get back here. We got company." The newcomers were ruthless, armed to the teeth and clearly working in tandem with Mark. To James, this was more than a battle. It was a nightmare made real. How could Mark, the man he trusted, turn against them? The revelation hit him like a punch to the gut, stealing his breath and his sense of security. As Mark closed in, James saw not just a colleague turned enemy, but a mirror reflecting his own image. James fired each bullet a testament to the shattered trust, and yet he couldn't help but hope that somehow this was all a terrible mistake. Maybe Mark could still be reached, pulled back from the edge of the abyss. But with every missed shot, with every near escape, that hope flickered and dimmed. In the heart of the chaos, inside the dark control room, Michael's fingers flew across the keyboard, desperately searching for answers. He needed to understand the depth of the conspiracy, to know how far the corruption had spread. The fate of London, possibly the entire world, hung in the balance. Time ticked by in agonizing seconds. Each keystroke was a plea, a silent prayer for answers. Then it hit him. Operation Black Dawn, a sleeper cell, 48 hours to deploy. It was all connected, a vast network of deceit and impending doom. If only he could share this with James, they could expose the conspiracy together. But communication was down. They were on their own. Just then, a shadow loomed over him. Startled, Michael whirled around to find himself face to face with Mark. The betrayal was palpable. "Mark," Michael breathed, disbelief heavy in his voice. "How could you?" But Mark wasn't looking at him. His gaze was fixed on the screen, his expression unreadable behind the mask. "It's too late, Michael," Mark said, his voice distorted, emotionless. "There's no turning back." With swift, precise movements, Mark tied Michael to the chair, effectively making him another hostage. "Why?" Michael asked, the question echoing in the vast space of the control room. "Why would you do this?" But Mark didn't answer. Instead, he disappeared into the labyrinth of corridors. Left alone in the flickering light of the control room, Michael struggled against his bonds. Rage simmered within him, fueled by confusion and fear. Why was Mark doing this? What had driven his closest friend to betray them? Was it money, power, or something more sinister? Suddenly, Michael spotted a loose wire dangling from the console. An idea sparked in his mind. If he could get to the main server, he might be able to access the system and send a message to James, a distress call that could change everything. With renewed determination, Michael focused on the task at hand. Each move was a calculated risk. The fate of countless lives hung in the balance. The answer to stopping Operation Black Dawn might lie in the heart of the conspiracy itself. Meanwhile, back at the docks, James fought valiantly, but the odds were stacked against him. The attackers were relentless. Their assault, a well-coordinated storm that threatened to engulf him. Yet James held his ground, every defensive move showcasing years of training and sheer grit. Each bullet he dodged, each blow he parried was a testament to his will to survive, to protect. But the situation was dire. He was running out of ammunition, and the reinforcements were nowhere in sight. Exhaustion gnawed at his muscles, the sting of cuts and bruises, a constant reminder of the brutal reality of his situation. Despite the grim circumstances, James refused to surrender. He fought with the ferocity of a cornered animal, his movements a blur of controlled aggression. Every fiber of his being was focused on survival, on holding out until help arrived. But even as he fought, a nagging worry gnawed at him. Where was Michael? Had he managed to get away? Or worse, had he been captured? The thought of his partner in peril spurred James on. He had to survive not just for himself, but for Michael too. The question was, could he hold on just a little longer? Back at the dock, James, battered but unbroken, found momentary respite behind a shipping container. His body ached, his clothes torn and bloodied, but his resolve remained steadfast. He needed a plan, a way to turn the tide, to fight back against these relentless attackers. Glancing around, he spotted a fire extinguisher mounted on the wall. An idea sparked in his mind. Quickly unscrewing the nozzle, he released the white powdery contents into the air, creating a thick cloud for cover. Adrenaline surged through him as he took off running, dodging between the shipping containers, moving like a phantom through the fog. His attackers, momentarily blinded and disoriented, shouted in frustration, their gunfire echoing across the empty docks. James didn't stop running. He dashed toward the shadows, weaving a path only he could navigate. Inside the dimly lit control room, Michael's heart pounded against his ribs as he frantically worked on the main server. The cool touch of metal against his skin, the rhythmic hum of machinery, all faded away as he entered the command to send a coded message to James. It was a long shot, but their only hope. If James received the message, he'd know to find the hidden door, to look for Michael. It was a silent plea across the darkness, a beacon in the storm. With the message sent, Michael slumped back, exhaustion and relief washing over him. Now it was up to James. Would he receive the message? Would he understand its urgency? All Michael could do was wait and hope. Suddenly, a loud crash resonated from the other side of the room. Alarmed, Michael turned to see the door burst open, flooding the space with bright light. The silhouette of a man stood framed in the doorway. Relief washed over Michael, followed by surprise. It was James, his clothes torn, his face grimy, but his eyes shining with determination. "Michael," James exclaimed, rushing to his friend, "I got your message. What the hell is going on here?" But Michael couldn't answer. The sight of James, alive and with him, triggered a wave of dizziness. Fainted, collapsing into James's arms. Trust and camaraderie had brought them together. But now their fates were intertwined in a way neither had anticipated. Their shared ordeal had forged a bond that went beyond duty, a testament to their enduring friendship. In the midst of the chaos, under the shroud of the foggy night, James and Michael had triumphed over adversity. But their victory was bittersweet, for as they stood there amidst the ruins of Dock 17, they knew that the battle was far from over. Their triumph at Dock 17 was short-lived, for as they surveyed the damage, the gravity of the situation became clear. The fight had taken its toll, leaving them bruised and shaken. But the looming threat of Operation Black Dawn cast a long shadow over their victory. As they made their way through the labyrinthine corridors of the control room, the weight of what they had uncovered pressed down on them. They were no longer just dealing with a local crime ring. They were up against a global conspiracy that reached into the highest echelons of power. Their discovery of Operation Black Dawn, a sleeper cell with the potential to destabilize London and possibly the entire world, had put them squarely in the crosshairs. Now, with their enemies regrouping and plotting their next move, James and Michael knew they had to act fast. They needed to expose the conspiracy, to bring the masterminds of Operation Black Dawn to justice. But how could they do it without tipping off their enemies? As they strategized, the full extent of the danger they were in began to dawn on them. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and in enemy territory. Yet despite the odds, a flicker of determination shone in their eyes. They had come too far to turn back now. The fate of London, possibly the world, rested on their shoulders. And James and Michael, battered but unbroken, were ready to face whatever came next. In the shadows of London's bustling South Bank, a new tale of intrigue and betrayal unfolds. Welcome to another thrilling episode where danger lurks around every corner. Tonight, we read diving deep into the heart of Project Black Dawn and facing the shocking revelation that threatens to shatter everything. James, determined to rescue Emily and uncover the truth behind Project Black Dawn, infiltrates a secret warehouse only to stumble upon a sight that turns his world upside down. Under the harsh glare of the fluorescent lights, he sees a familiar face, a face he thought he could trust. His closest friend and trusted partner, Michael Turner, is revealed to be none other than Red Scorpion himself. The leader of the notorious organization known as Red Scorpion, responsible for the series of cyber attacks plaguing London, betrayal cuts deeper than any blade. James finds himself grappling with disbelief and anger as the realization dawns on him. The man he considered his brother, the person he shared secrets and risked his life with, is now his greatest enemy. But amidst the turmoil, a steely resolve hardens James's gaze. He is not one to wallow in self-pity or despair. Instead, his thoughts swiftly turn to the mission at hand. Emily's life is still hanging in the balance. Their friend, the hacker genius known as Echo, is missing, and the fate of London hangs precariously in the balance as Red Scorpion's sinister plan, Project Black Dawn, threatens to plunge the city into chaos. His voice echoing with restrained fury, James confronts Michael, demanding answers and vengeance. But Michael's response is a cold smile, a smile that sends shivers down James's spine. Michael reveals that the trust James placed in him was nothing but a pawn in his grand scheme. All along, Michael has been feeding information to Red Scorpion, ensuring their every move was one step ahead of the authorities. The betrayal runs deep, twisting the knife of deceit even further. Michael reveals that Echo's disappearance is not an act of kidnapping, but a calculated sacrifice to ensure Red Scorpion's ultimate success. The weight of these revelations threatens to crush James, but he refuses to yield. His determination to save Emily and expose Project Black Dawn only grows stronger. As James struggles to come to terms with the betrayal, a fierce determination hardens his gaze. He knows he must remain focused. Emily's life hangs in the balance and the fate of London trembles on the edge of disaster. Red Scorpion's leader, the enigmatic Victor, is orchestrating Project Black Dawn with chilling precision. His plan is audacious, targeting London's infrastructure and communication systems to plunge the city into chaos. But James refuses to be deterred. With unwavering focus, he navigates the labyrinthine warehouse, dodging security measures and battling Red Scorpion's elite forces. Each step takes him closer to Emily, but also deeper into the heart of the conspiracy. The clock is ticking, and the stakes are higher than ever before. With Echo's absence, time is scarce. The ingenious hacker has left behind a cryptic trail of clues, digital breadcrumbs leading to the heart of Project Black Dawn. As James pieces together the puzzle, he uncovers a plot so audacious it threatens to shatter London's foundations. Red Scorpion's plan involves crippling the city's power grid, plunging London into darkness while simultaneously disrupting its communication networks, leaving the populace vulnerable and disoriented. Amidst the urgency, James receives a coded message from Echo, a lifeline in the darkness. The message leads him to a hidden server room, a sanctuary of digital secrets. There, James discovers irrefutable evidence of Red Scorpion's infiltration, the extent of their control over London's vital systems. Armed with this knowledge, James realizes the gravity of the situation. Red Scorpion has woven its tendrils deep into the fabric of the city. To expose the conspiracy, James must navigate a treacherous path, one fraught with danger and deception. Trust becomes a luxury he can no longer afford. As he closes in on the truth, the body count rises. Each life lost a grim testament to Red Scorpion's ruthless efficiency. James finds himself at a pivotal juncture. He can either expose the conspiracy, putting himself and Emily in mortal danger, or protect his own and let Red Scorpion's sinister plan unfold. But as the full scope of Project Black Dawn is revealed, the choice becomes clear. Saving Emily and unraveling Red Scorpion's plot becomes his driving force. In a heart-stopping confrontation, James confronts Michael Turner, the embodiment of Red Scorpion's insidious presence within his inner circle. The fight is brutal, a testament to years of pent-up betrayal and rage. Fists collide, echoing the turmoil in James's soul, as he grapples with the treachery that runs deep. But amidst the fury, James uncovers the truth behind Michael's transformation, a tale of manipulation and coercion, a pawn in a game far greater than he could have imagined. As the fight reaches its climax, James is faced with a choice: to end Michael's involvement in Red Scorpion and risk shattering their brotherhood forever, or to expose him, bringing the full weight of justice down upon him. Torn between duty and loyalty, James's decision will have repercussions that resonate far beyond the confines of their battle. Amidst the chaos, James and Emily find themselves cornered in the labyrinthine depths of the warehouse. With Red Scorpion closing in, they must use their combined skills to escape, but their pursuers are relentless, driven by the promise of a greater reward, the destruction of London. Suddenly, a new player emerges from the shadows, a mysterious ally who offers James and Emily a chance at survival. Together, they hatch a daring plan to lure Red Scorpion's forces into a trap. As the final showdown approaches, the fate of London hangs in the balance. Will James and Emily succeed in thwarting Project Black Dawn? Or will Red Scorpion's sinister plot plunge the city into chaos? With Red Scorpion's forces closing in, James and Emily find themselves in a desperate race against time. The warehouse transforms into a battleground as they fight tooth and nail to survive. But as the odds stack against them, their hope seems to dwindle with each passing moment. Just when all hope appears to be lost, an unexpected ally steps forward. The long-haired man known only as Victor, one of the most feared members of Red Scorpion, joins their cause. His reasons shrouded in mystery, he offers James and Emily a precarious alliance, a lifeline in the storm. Together, this unlikely trio navigates the treacherous terrain of the warehouse, evading Red Scorpion's watchful eyes and deadly traps. The tension is palpable, each step fraught with peril as they inch closer to the heart of Project Black Dawn. But as they delve deeper into the conspiracy, more shocking revelations come to light. Victor reveals that Red Scorpion's grip on London extends far beyond their wildest imaginations. The organization's tentacles have infiltrated every facet of the city's infrastructure, leaving it vulnerable to their sinister machinations. To expose the full extent of Red Scorpion's infiltration, James and Emily must confront their deepest fears and push their limits to the breaking point. As the final confrontation looms, the true mastermind behind Project Black Dawn emerges from the shadows. Victor, the enigmatic leader of Red Scorpion, reveals his identity, shattering the illusions that have kept him hidden until now. His face, once a symbol of fear and menace, is now etched with the grim determination of a man who will stop at nothing to achieve his goals. But behind Victor's steely facade lies a web of deceit and betrayal that threatens to tear apart the very fabric of James's reality. The secrets he uncovers will shake him to his core, forcing him to confront the darkest aspects of human nature. In a gripping display of skill and cunning, James and Emily manage to evade Red Scorpion's grasp, disappearing into the labyrinthine streets of London. But their victory is short-lived. The chilling message from Michael Turner echoes in their ears, promising retribution and a reckoning that will leave them shattered. As the fog rolls in, casting an eerie glow over the city, James and Emily find themselves at the center of a web of deceit and danger. With Red Scorpion's forces hot on their trail, they must navigate the murky depths of London's criminal underworld to stay one step ahead. But as they delve deeper into the heart of the conspiracy, the stakes rise, threatening to engulf them in a maelstrom of violence and betrayal. James and Emily's pursuit of justice and revenge takes them on a perilous journey through the seedy underbelly of London. As they gather crucial intelligence, they realize that Red Scorpion's reach is far more extensive than they had anticipated. The body count continues to rise, each life extinguished, adding fuel to their determination to bring the organization down. But as the noose tightens around Red Scorpion, the conspirators reveal their most audacious move yet. With London's infrastructure crippled and its people vulnerable, they unleash a wave of terror that threatens to paralyze the city. Amidst the unfolding chaos, James and Emily find themselves racing against time. They must restore order to London and expose Red Scorpion's sinister plot before it's too late. But as the city teeters on the brink of disaster, they must confront not only external threats, but also the demons within. For in the face of overwhelming odds, their courage and resilience will be put to the ultimate test. Will James and Emily prevail against the darkness that seeks to consume London? Can they restore order and deliver justice to those affected by Red Scorpion's reign of terror? Or will the conspiracy's web of deceit and betrayal prove too strong, leaving London forever scarred by the shadows of Project Black Dawn? That brings us to the end of another episode. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you enjoyed the show, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more thrilling tales. Until next time, stay safe and keep an eye out for the shadows. Who knows? They might just hold the key to the next great adventure. The air crackled with tension as James and Emily burst through the steel doors, leaving the familiar sights and sounds of Dock 17 behind. Now, they raced against time, hurtling towards a secret safe house on the outskirts of the city. James's arm throbbed, the injury sustained during their daring escape a constant reminder of the danger they had just left behind. But his eyes burned with a steely determination, betraying the turmoil raging within. At the safe house, Emily wasted no time. With practiced hands, she cleaned and bandaged James's wound, her movements swift and efficient. As she worked, she said seriously, "James, we don't have much time, only 48 hours. If Red Scorpion succeeds, London will fall into darkness and chaos." Her words hung heavy in the air, amplifying the ticking clock that had become their unwelcome companion. James nodded grimly, the gravity of their situation settling upon him. "What else did you see on the server?" he asked, his voice raspy but resolute. Time was precious, every second counting as they raced against the impending catastrophe. Emily took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. Operation Black Dawn has 3 phases. Phase 1 was my abduction. 2, stop me from leaking more data. Phase 2 is the destruction of the power grid. And Phase 3, mass killings. They plan to target key politicians and business tycoons to seize control of the city. She looked up at James, her eyes filled with urgency. "We need to act fast. If we can stop them in Phase 2, we might still have a chance." As if on cue, a news report flickered on the TV, confirming Emily's fears. Londoners urged to prepare for potential blackouts after cyber attack on energy grid. The article displayed a picture of the massive digital scorch mark left on the wall of Dock 17, a silent scream of their presence. James clenched his fist, his jaw set in determination. "Victor and Michael think they can stop me. But this is personal now," he growled, his eyes blazing with a fierce resolve. The threat to his family, to his world, had awakened a primal instinct within him, one that would stop at nothing to protect what was his. Meanwhile, miles away at their base, Victor and Michael stood in an underground chamber, the very heart of their sinister operation. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as they watched a large digital countdown glow ominously on the screen. 44 hours, 59 minutes, and 32 seconds. Each number seared into their vision like a branding iron, marking the passage of time, the approach of their ultimate gambit. Victor, always the picture of suave sophistication, lit a cigar, the tip glowing like a malevolent eye in the dim light. He turned to Michael, his tone a low rumble. "Michael, Carter is still alive. That means he will fight us to the end. But that's good, because when he loses, he will lose in front of everyone." His words carried a hint of triumph, as if defeat was already a foregone conclusion. Michael, ever the strategist, remained impassive, his gaze fixed on the countdown. "He may be difficult to defeat, but we can deceive him," he replied firmly, his voice betraying none of the turmoil that raged within. "And then finish him." A flicker of amusement crossed Victor's face, his eyes glinting with a cruel light. "Good, show him exactly what he wants to see." As if on cue, the countdown ticked over to 24 hours, the marker glowing in ominous red, a stark reminder of the impending storm. Now, the cat-and-mouse game was on. James, driven by an indomitable spirit, raced against the clock to thwart Red Scorpion's deadly plot, while Victor and Michael, their faces etched with a chilling determination, waited for their prey to make the first move, confident in their web of deceit. The stage was set for a final showdown, a battle where every second counted and lives hung in the balance. James didn't hesitate. He reached out, tapping into his last remaining ally, Inspector Daniel Harris, the only man he still fully trusted. In a hushed, urgent tone, James laid everything out in the open: the threat to London, the attack on Canary Wharf, and the ticking clock that measured their impending doom. As James spoke, the weight of his words pressed heavily on Harris, who listened intently, his face etched with concern. When James finally fell silent, Harris's response was firm and laced with grim determination. "James, if this is true, the whole city is at risk. But the government cannot be informed yet. Even the slightest leak will cause mass panic. We'll have to fight this war alone." His words were a testament to the gravity of the situation, a shared understanding that they were not merely dealing with a common criminal, but a highly trained, ruthless enemy. "Exactly," James affirmed, his voice a low growl. "We'll keep them in the dark and strike straight at their heart." The plan was set. Now, the race against time truly began. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city, James and Emily made their way to the appointed spot near Canary Wharf. The air was thick with tension, the silence broken only by the distant hum of the city. The sprawling complex loomed before them, its darkened windows like vacant eyes staring back. Suddenly, the familiar rasp of a voice shattered the quiet. "Welcome back, Carter." The lights flickered on, revealing Michael standing at the entrance, a cruel smile playing on his lips. Behind him, a dozen masked figures stood motionless, their presence a menacing backdrop to Michael's mocking grin. In his hand, he held something that made James's blood run cold, a device emitting a faint blue glow. "Enjoying the party, Carter?" Michael continued, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "It's just getting started." With a flick of a switch, the blue glow intensified, bathing the area in an eerie light. But it wasn't the light that stole James's breath. It was the words emblazoned on the device. Red Scorpion. His worst fears were confirmed. This was the pulse detonator. Michael gestured to the device in his hand. "Curious about how we managed to get inside?" he asked, his voice laced with amusement. Then, as if to emphasize his point, the ground beneath them rumbled. From the depths of the earth, a deep voice boomed. "Sorry to disappoint you, Michael, but we're done here." With a swift movement, Michael tossed the device aside. "Don't bother, Carter," he said, his voice echoing with a chilling calm. "It's just a diversion. You should know me better than that." As he spoke, explosions rocked the building behind him, sending shrapnel and debris raining down. The structure groaned, flames licking at the night sky as if in defiance. The security cameras blinked off one by one, plunging the area into darkness. In the ensuing chaos, James pulled Emily behind him, shielding her with his body. "Cover me," he whispered, his voice tight with urgency. He knew that this was the moment they had been preparing for, the culmination of a nightmare he had never imagined possible. Drawing his gun, he moved, his steps sure and silent as he navigated the labyrinth of shadows and debris. Every sense on high alert, he was ready to face whatever lay ahead, to confront the darkness that threatened to engulf them all. The fight for London, for their very survival, had come down to this. Now, as the flames danced and the echoes of gunfire reverberated through the night, James Carter was ready to take on Red Scorpion in a battle that would determine the fate of the city and his soul. Now, click on this video to continue watching, or click on this video to watch. A shiver ran down Emily's spine. The air crackled with tension. All around them, the giant screens flickered ominously, casting long, eerie shadows that danced in the flickering light. The Canary Wharf power hub, usually a hive of activity, was unnaturally silent. Only the hum of electronics breaking the stillness. It was as if everyone had vanished into thin air. James, his face grim, moved closer to the control panel. His gaze was fixed on the clock, its red numbers glowing like malevolent eyes in the darkness. Every tick seemed to echo in the silence, counting down to an unseen doom. The fate of London, perhaps even the world, hung in the balance. Suddenly, a voice cut through the gloom, shattering the tense quiet. "Well, well, if it isn't our intrepid heroes. Fancy seeing you here." A tall, imposing figure stepped out of the gloom, his face half hidden in the shadows. Beside him stood another man, his features obscured by a deep hood, but there was something about his stance, the way he carried himself, that sent a chill down Emily's spine. "Michael," James breathed, his voice tight with surprise and a hint of accusation. It couldn't be. He had thought they'd left Michael behind, given him a chance to escape the clutches of Victor and his shadowy organization known as the Consortium. Yet here he was, standing in the heart of the very plot they had uncovered, seemingly siding with their most dangerous foe. The newcomer, Michael, smirked, a glint of triumph in his eyes. "Didn't think I'd make it, did you, James?" He gestured to the hooded figure beside him. "This is the man who holds the answers you seek, the puppet master behind the recent chaos, the mastermind known only as Victor." A collective gasp escaped Emily and James. Finally, they would get some answers, confront the man whose machinations had plunged the city into turmoil. Yet something about Victor's composed demeanor, the way he carried himself with an air of quiet menace, made the hairs on the back of Emily's neck stand on end. There was a chilling confidence in his movements, a sense of control that both intrigued and unnerved her. With a flourish, Victor removed his hood, revealing a face etched with sharp angles and hardened by years of ruthless decisions. His eyes, cold and calculating, swept over them, sending a jolt of apprehension through Emily. It was as if he were sizing them up, weighing their strengths and weaknesses with the precision of a seasoned predator. "You finally decided to grace us with your presence, Victor," James said, his voice betraying none of the turmoil raging within. Decades of training kicked in, overriding the shock. He stepped forward, hands raised, adopting a boxer's stance. Years of experience in the field had taught him that the element of surprise had vanished. Now it was a battle of wits and skills, and he intended to prevail. Emily, ever the pragmatist, knew that a direct confrontation was futile. Instead, her gaze darted around the room, searching for anything that could give them an edge. Her eyes landed on a console, its blinking lights a silent invitation. With a nod to James, she slipped away unnoticed, moving with the fluid grace of a seasoned operative. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, her eyes scanning the screen as she delved into the network, seeking any vulnerability that could turn the tide in their favor. Each click was a calculated risk, each keystroke a step closer to unraveling Victor's plans. The fate of London, perhaps more, rested on her shoulders, and she wouldn't let them down. In the dimly lit room, the battle lines were drawn. James stood ready, his gaze locked on Victor, the air thick with anticipation. Emily, her fingers flying across the keyboard, worked feverishly to find a way to turn the tables. The fate of the city, perhaps the world, hung in the balance. Suddenly, a voice cut through the tension, shattering the silence. "So, you've infiltrated my humble abode. Impressive, I must say. But why? What brings you here?" Victor turned, his gaze piercing, fixing on James. "You're behind everything that's happened in the last few months." "Victor," James stated, his voice leaving no room for denial. "The attacks, the chaos, the very real threat of plunging London into darkness. It ends today." A cruel smile twisted Victor's lips. "Ambitious, James, very ambitious. But you forget, I have friends in high places. By now, London is mine. The power grid, the city's infrastructure, it's all at my fingertips. You are merely a pawn in my grand design." James felt a surge of anger, quickly pushing it aside. Victor was playing mind games, trying to break his concentration. "We know what you're planning, Victor. The entire city is on edge because of you. You won't get away with this." "Oh, I assure you, James, I intend to get away with far more than you can imagine. Your little city is just the beginning. My plans span continents, affect millions. Victor's words dripped with menace, each syllable a calculated blow aimed at unnerving James. He pressed on, his voice laced with a chilling confidence. Why do you think Michael is here, James? He is my most valuable asset, my link to the very core of London's security apparatus. And trust me, he knows all your secrets, all your vulnerabilities. James's eyes narrowed, his gaze shifting to Michael, who stood impassively, his expression unreadable. If Michael was indeed Victor's agent, then their situation was precarious to say the least. As if reading James's thoughts, Victor continued, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. You see, James, you live in a world of shadows. You thrive in the darkness. But it's my world now. This city, this country, soon the entire globe. Everything dances to my tune. A wave of determination washed over James, pushing aside his mounting concerns. You might have played your part well, Victor, but it's over now. London won't bend to your will. The game ends tonight. Victor's response was a low, throaty laugh that reverberated around the chamber. The game has only just begun. James, you don't understand the forces you're up against. You're fighting a losing battle. James, his jaw set in grim determination, refused to back down. I may not know all your plans, Victor, but I do know this. No one controls London, not while I draw breath. Not while we draw breath. He glanced at Emily, her form backlit by the glow of the control panel, her silhouette a testament to her unwavering spirit. Victor's eyes narrowed. He turned slowly to face Emily, a predatory gleam in his eyes. Ah, yes, the hacker. I've heard quite a bit about you, Emily Carter. Quite the reputation you have built for yourself. Quite a bit about you too, Mr. Scorpion. James stepped forward, his voice a low growl. Let her go, Victor. This doesn't involve her. Oh, but it does involve her. James, you see, she holds the key to my ultimate plan. Why, you might ask? Because she is the daughter of my dear friend, Adrian Hayes. The revelation hit James like a physical blow, knocking the breath out of his lungs. Adrian Hayes, legendary spy master and father to Emily, who had disappeared years ago under mysterious circumstances. Could Victor's sinister designs extend to Emily? The thought sent a chill down James's spine. Before James could respond, Victor continued, his voice dripping with malicious glee. I have something that belongs to him, something that will ensure London falls into my grasp. And guess what, Mr. Scorpion? That something is your friend, Michael. With a flourish, Victor pressed a button on a remote control in his hand. On the main screen, a countdown began to flash ominously. 0 hours, 29 minutes, and 59 seconds. What have you done? James demanded, his eyes fixed on the timer. Oh, haven't you noticed, James? I have complete control over the city's power grid. In less than 30 minutes, London will plunge into total darkness, and then my real plans will begin. Terror gripped Emily. She raced through the maze-like corridors, desperately searching for an exit. Outside, the first signs of twilight were beginning to appear, painting the sky in hues of purple and orange. Time was running out. As she dashed through the labyrinthine network of tunnels, she realized the gravity of their situation. Victor had the upper hand and he was playing it brilliantly. The countdown ticked relentlessly toward 0, each second a hammer blow to their dwindling hope. Just when despair threatened to engulf her, she spotted a glimmer of light in the distance, an opening that promised freedom, or perhaps a way to thwart Victor's deadly scheme. With renewed determination, she surged forward, racing towards the light. The air grew colder, heavier, mirroring the leaden sky above. James felt a knot of dread tighten in his stomach. The countdown loomed over them, a stark reminder of the imminent danger. You won't get away with this, Victor, James vowed, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. Oh, but I already have. James, didn't you realize? You walk into my traps willingly? You are as good as defeated? The realization dawned on James, sending a jolt of ice-cold fear through him. Victor had manipulated them, baited them into this very trap. He looked at Michael, who met his gaze with a mixture of triumph and pity. In that instant, the truth hit James like a tidal wave. Michael wasn't Victor's pawn. He was the puppet master's accomplice. They had been betrayed from within, but there was no time to dwell on the treachery. The countdown continued its relentless march towards 0. In the dimming light, James saw the flicker of fear in Victor's eyes. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. That realization sparked a new resolve in James, chasing away the fear. This was his moment, his opportunity to turn the tide. With a burst of adrenaline, he lunged at Victor. Years of combat training kicked in, propelling him forward with lethal intent. Victor, caught off guard, stumbled backward, his eyes wide with alarm. In the ensuing struggle, James fought with the ferocity of a cornered animal, his blows heavy with the weight of desperation. Victor, nimble and quick, managed to dodge most of his attacks, but it was clear that he was out of his depth. James, fueled by the primal instinct to protect those under his care, fought with a raw intensity that belied his years. The struggle raged on, a desperate dance of attack and evasion, of strength and agility. and as the final seconds ticked away on the ominous clock, the outcome remained tantalizingly in the balance.